There will come a day when life asks you a question you cannot avoid. Not, are you comfortable? Not, are you ready? Not even, do you think you can do this? Life will look you square in the eyes and ask, what are you made of when everything you depended on disappears? And in that moment you will discover something important. The strength you need has not been waiting somewhere outside of you. It has been waiting inside you. You have been carrying it through every disappointment you survived. You carried it through every door that closed. You carried it through every goodbye you did not want to say. You carried it through every morning when getting out of bed required a battle nobody else could see. You thought you were merely surviving, but you were training. Every difficult season was teaching your mind something. Every rejection was teaching you not to measure your worth by somebody else's decision. Every failure was teaching you that falling is not the same thing as being finished. Every betrayal was teaching you that trust should be given with wisdom, not desperation. Every lonely night was teaching you that solitude can become a classroom. And every time you thought, I cannot take one more thing, you discovered that you could. That is where mental strength begins. It begins when you stop asking life to become easier and start teaching yourself to become stronger. Now understand me carefully. Training your mind does not mean becoming a person who never cries. It does not mean pretending you are never afraid. It does not mean smiling while your heart is breaking and calling that strength. No, a trained mind is not a mind without pain. A trained mind is a mind that knows what to do with pain. It is a mind that can feel fear without handing fear the steering wheel. It is a mind that can experience disappointment without turning disappointment into an identity. It is a mind that can walk through uncertainty without demanding that tomorrow explain itself today. Because life will never give you complete certainty. There will always be something you cannot control. Someone may misunderstand you, someone may leave, a plan may collapse. A door you worked years to reach may close in your face. You may give your heart to something and watch it break. You may work hard and still lose. You may do everything you know to do and still have to begin again. And when that happens, you have a choice. You can allow the event to become the author of your story, or you can pick up the pen again. That choice is one of the greatest powers you possess. You cannot always control what happens, but you can train yourself to control what happens next. That is the work. That is the discipline. That is the journey. You begin by changing the way you speak to yourself. Because the mind listens. It listens when you say, I am finished. It listens when you say, nothing ever works for me. It listens when you say, I am not good enough. It listens when you repeat, I cannot. And if you say those words long enough, your mind begins building a house around them. But you can teach it something different. You can say, this is difficult, but I can learn. You can say, I am disappointed, but I am not defeated. You can say, I do not know the answer yet, but I can search for it. You can say, I have fallen before and I have risen before. You can say, this chapter hurts. But this chapter is not the whole book. Do not underestimate the power of a sentence spoken repeatedly to your own spirit. Words become beliefs. Beliefs influence decisions. Decisions become habits. Habits shape a life. So be careful about what you keep telling yourself. You would not repeatedly pour poison into a glass and then wonder why you feel sick. Then do not poison your own mind with words of permanent defeat. Speak truth to yourself, not empty positivity. Truth. Tell yourself, this hurts. Then tell yourself, I can heal. Tell yourself, I made a mistake. Then tell yourself, I can learn. Tell yourself, I am afraid. Then tell yourself, I can still move. That is courage. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is movement in the presence of fear. And if you want to train your mind to overcome anything, you must become comfortable moving while you are afraid. Fear will often tell you to wait until you are certain, wait until everyone approves, wait until you feel confident. Wait until you know exactly how everything will end. But if you listen to fear long enough, you will discover that fear always has another reason for you to wait. So you must learn to say, I am going anyway. Not because you know you will succeed, because you refuse to let uncertainty make your decisions for you. There is something else you must understand. You cannot train a powerful mind by avoiding every uncomfortable experience. If you constantly run from discomfort, discomfort becomes your master. You must practice doing difficult things. Wake up when you said you would. Finish what you started. Have the conversation you have been avoiding. Say no when you mean no. Say yes when opportunity requires courage. Spend time alone without immediately reaching for distraction. Sit with disappointment without running towards something that will numb it. Do the work even when applause is absent. This is how mental endurance is built, not in one dramatic moment. In hundreds of small decisions nobody sees, the world celebrates the victory. But the mind is trained in the ordinary mornings that came before it. It is trained when you choose discipline instead of excuses. It is trained when you choose patience instead of panic. It is trained when you choose preparation instead of wishing. It is trained when you choose to try again after yesterday did not go your way. You do not become mentally strong because one day you wake up transformed. You become mentally strong because you repeatedly practice being the person you want to become. And understand this, your environment matters. You cannot spend every day listening to people who tell you that your dreams are foolish, and then wonder why your confidence is weak. You cannot continually surround yourself with bitterness and expect your mind to remain peaceful. You cannot constantly consume fear and expect courage to grow. Protect what enters your mind. Not everything deserves your attention. Not every argument deserves your response. Not every criticism deserves an explanation. Not every person deserves access to your inner world. Your attention is precious. Your peace is precious. Your mental energy is precious. Stop giving all three away as if you have an endless supply. There will always be somebody who misunderstands you. Let them. There will always be somebody who thinks you should be living differently. Let them think. There will always be somebody who cannot see what you are building because they have never seen the blueprint inside your heart. You do not need everybody to understand. You need yourself to remain committed. That is a different kind of freedom. When you stop needing universal approval, you become difficult to manipulate. When you stop needing everybody to agree with you, you become capable of making difficult decisions. When you stop needing applause, you discover that you can work in silence. And sometimes silence is where your greatest transformation takes place. You may have spent years trying to prove yourself to people who had already decided what they wanted to believe about you. Stop. Your life is not a courtroom. You do not have to present evidence to every person who doubts your worth. Build, grow, heal, learn, and let your life speak. But there is another battle you must learn to fight. The battle against your own past. Your past can teach you, but it must not imprison you. You have made mistakes, so have I, so has every person who has ever dared to live. Some mistakes were small, some were painful. Some changed the direction of your life. Some people may never forgive you for what you did, and there may be things you must sincerely apologize for. Do it. Take responsibility, learn, make amends where possible. But do not confuse accountability with lifelong self-punishment. You are allowed to become wiser than the person you used to be. You are allowed to look back and say, I did not know then what I know now. That is not weakness, that is growth. The person you were 5 years ago does not need to remain in control of the person you are becoming today. You can change your mind, you can change your habits, you can change your boundaries, you can change your direction, you can begin again. And beginning again is one of the most powerful things a human being can do. There is no shame in starting over. Sometimes starting over is proof that you finally understood what was not working. Sometimes the broken road is the road that teaches you how to build better. Do not waste your suffering, learn from it. Ask it questions. What did this teach me? What boundary did I fail to establish? What warning did I ignore? What strength did I discover? What do I need to do differently next time? When you ask better questions, you begin receiving better answers. A weak mind asks, "Why is this happening to me?" A stronger mind eventually learns to ask, "What can I do with what is happening to me?" That question changes everything. Because the first question keeps you staring at the storm, the second question makes you search for shelter. The first asks for an explanation, the second searches for a response. And sometimes you will never receive the explanation you wanted. You may never understand why someone left. You may never know why the opportunity disappeared. You may never understand why something you prayed, worked, and waited for did not happen. You must learn to live without every answer. Peace does not always come from understanding why. Sometimes peace comes from accepting that you may never know. Acceptance does not mean approval. It means you stop fighting reality long enough to decide what to do next. And that is where your power returns. Train your mind to return to the present. The past is finished. The future has not arrived. The only place where you can act is here. Now, this breath, this moment, this decision. Do not spend today's strength fighting yesterday's battle. Yesterday already took what it was going to take. Do not give it tomorrow too, and do not borrow pain from a future that has not happened. Your mind will sometimes create disasters that never arrive. It will rehearse rejection before you apply. It will imagine failure before you begin. It will create conversations that never happen. It will convince you that everyone is judging you when most people are busy fighting battles of their own. Notice those thoughts. You do not have to obey every thought simply because it entered your mind. A thought is not always a command. A feeling is not always a fact. Fear is not prophecy. Anxiety is not evidence. Doubt is not destiny. Learn to observe your thoughts. Ask, is this true? Ask, is this useful? Ask, what evidence do I have? Ask, what would I tell someone I love if they were thinking this way? You may discover that you speak to yourself in a way you would never speak to another human being. Down that, become your own place of refuge. When the world is cruel, do not add another cruel voice to the room. Let your inner voice become firm but compassionate. Tell yourself the truth without destroying yourself with it. You are responsible for your growth, but you are also human. You will have bad days. You will become tired. You will sometimes lose your patience. You will sometimes doubt yourself. You may even have days when the strongest thing you can do is rest. Rest is not surrender. Sometimes the mind needs stillness before it can see clearly. Do not confuse exhaustion with failure. You cannot pour endlessly from an empty vessel. Train your mind, yes, but care for the body carrying it. Me. Eat with intention, breathe, walk, spend time in nature, law. Talk to people who make you feel human rather than inadequate. Your mind is not separate from your life. It lives inside your daily habits. If you want a stronger mind, build a stronger routine. You do not need a perfect routine. You need a dependable one. Give yourself something to return to when life becomes chaotic. A morning practice, a few quiet minutes. Writing down what matters, reading something that expands you. Moving your body, planning the day. Ending the evening without carrying every problem into bed. Small rituals create stability. And stability creates room for strength. But perhaps the most important lesson is this. Stop expecting yourself to be fearless. Expect yourself to be faithful to what matters. You may feel fear and still keep your promise. You may feel doubt and still do the work. You may feel tired and still take one small step. You may be heartbroken and still choose not to become bitter. You may be disappointed and still remain hopeful. That is strength. Strength is not always loud. Sometimes strength is a quiet decision made in the dark. Sometimes it is deleting the message you wanted to send. Sometimes it is walking away from a place that keeps diminishing you. Sometimes it is going back to school. Sometimes it is starting the business. Sometimes it is applying again. Sometimes it is forgiving yourself. Sometimes it is asking for help. And let me tell you something about asking for help. There is no weakness in it. A strong mind knows its limits. A strong mind understands that independence does not mean isolation. You were not designed to carry everything alone. There are moments when another person's wisdom can save you years of unnecessary pain. There are moments when a conversation can interrupt a destructive pattern. There are moments when support gives you enough strength to stand until your own strength returns. So ask, each learn. The goal is not to prove that you need nobody. The goal is to become someone who knows how to use the resources available to you. And while you are training your mind, train your expectations too. Do not expect life to be fair every morning. Do not expect every good action to be rewarded immediately. Do not expect every person to recognize your intentions. Do not expect every dream to happen according to your timetable. Expectation without flexibility becomes a cage. Hold your goals firmly. Hold your timetable lightly. There is a difference. You can know where you want to go without knowing exactly when you will arrive. That is patience. And patience is not passive. Patience is continuing to prepare while the results are still invisible. A seed does not become a tree because you stare at the ground and demand proof. You water it, you protect it, you give it time. Then one morning, something breaks through the soil. Your life can be like that. You may be doing everything right and still see nothing happening. Keep going. There are seasons when growth happens underground. Nobody applauds roots. Nobody celebrates the invisible work. But roots are what allow a tree to stand when the storm comes. So if your life feels quiet right now, do not assume nothing is happening. You may be building roots. You may be becoming the person capable of carrying the future you have been asking for. And when the storm comes, and storms do come, you will discover whether you built roots. The goal is not to create a life without storms. The goal is to become someone who knows how to stand in them. You will have storms. You will have setbacks. You will have days when your plans collapse. But you can train your mind to say, "All right, this happened. Now what?" That sentence can become a doorway. Now what? What is the next step? Not the perfect step, not the entire staircase, the next step. When life overwhelms you, shrink the problem. If you cannot solve the year, solve the day. If you cannot solve the day, solve the morning. If you cannot solve the morning, solve the next hour. If you cannot solve the hour, take care of the next 10 minutes. Progress does not require that you see the entire road. Sometimes you only need enough light to take the next step. And take it, then another, then another. One day you will look behind you and realize that the distance you traveled was built from tiny movements you almost dismissed. That is how people overcome enormous things. Not always through one heroic act. Through persistence, through repetition, through refusing to surrender the future because the present hurts. And you must understand the difference between quitting and changing direction. Sometimes you need to quit. Quit the habit. Quit the relationship that destroys you. Quit the belief that keeps you small. Quit the need to impress people who do not care. Quit the comparison. Quit the story that says you are permanently damaged. But do not quit yourself. You may change the road. You may change the plan. You may change the strategy. You may begin again. But do not abandon the person you are becoming. Protect that person. Feed that person. Teach that person. Believe in that person. Because nobody can live your life for you. People can encourage you. They can love you. They can advise you. They can stand beside you. But eventually, you must decide. You must choose. You must rise. And there will be mornings when nobody is coming to rescue you. That does not mean you are abandoned. It means it is time to discover what you can do. You have more capacity than you have been giving yourself credit for. You have survived days you once thought would destroy you. You have walked through rooms where your heart was shaking and somehow kept your dignity. You have lost things and continued. You have been disappointed and continued. You have cried and continued. You have been afraid and continued. Look at the evidence. You are still here. That matters. Do not dismiss your survival. It is evidence, not evidence that you should simply tolerate suffering forever, but evidence that you have already developed strengths you may not recognize. Now take those strengths and train them deliberately. Train your attention, train your patience, train your discipline, train your courage, train your ability to recover, train your ability to say no. Train your ability to begin. Train your ability to finish. Train your ability to forgive without returning to what harmed you. Train your ability to love without abandoning yourself. Train your ability to lose without losing your identity. Train your ability to succeed without becoming arrogant, because overcoming is not only about surviving difficult seasons. It is also about becoming wise enough to handle good seasons. Success can test you too. When doors open, remember who you are. When people praise you, remain teachable. When you become stronger, do not become cruel to those who are still learning. Your scars should give you compassion, not permission to wound others. The goal is not merely to become hard. It is to become resilient without becoming cold. There is a difference. A stone can be hard. A human being can be strong and still remain tender. Keep your tenderness. Keep your ability to love. Keep your ability to laugh. Keep your capacity for wonder. Do not let the world convince you that surviving means becoming emotionless. No, feel deeply, but choose wisely. Love deeply, but maintain boundaries. Dream boldly, but prepare patiently. Hope fiercely, but remain grounded. And when disappointment comes, let it hurt without letting it define you. You are allowed to grieve what you wanted. You are allowed to admit that something mattered. You are allowed to cry. But eventually, you must lift your head. Not because the pain was insignificant, because your life is significant too. There are still mornings waiting for you. There are still people you have not met. There are still places you have not seen. There are still ideas inside you that have not been born. There are still versions of yourself you have not become. Do not let one painful chapter convince you that the entire book has ended. It has not. You are still writing, and perhaps that is the greatest way to train the mind. Remember that you are participating in your own becoming. You are not a finished product. You are a living human being. You can learn, you can adapt, you can rebuild, you can forgive, you can grow, you can become more disciplined, you can become more peaceful, you can become more courageous, you can become more selective about where you place your energy, you can become someone who does not collapse every time life says no. And eventually something beautiful happens. You stop being terrified of difficulty. You begin respecting it, because you understand that difficulty can reveal strength. It can expose what needs to change. It can teach you patience. It can force you to become honest. It can introduce you to parts of yourself you never knew existed. And then you begin walking differently, not because life stopped being hard, because you stopped believing that hard meant impossible. That is the transformation. You no longer ask, can I guarantee that nothing will go wrong? You ask, if something goes wrong, will I know how to respond? And the answer becomes yes. Yes, I will breathe. Yes, I will think. Yes, I will ask for help if I need it. Yes, I will learn. Yes, I will adjust. Yes, I will grieve. Yes, I will get back up. Yes, I will continue. That is how you train a mind to overcome one thought, one choice, one habit, one difficult morning, one courageous conversation, one boundary, one failure, one recovery, one day at a time. Do not wait until you feel powerful. Start while you feel uncertain. Do not wait until you are confident. Start while your hands are shaking. Do not wait until everyone believes in you. Believe enough to take the next step yourself. And if you stumble, do not insult yourself for being human. Stand. If you fall again, stand again. If you have to begin again, begin. There is no shame in beginning. There is no shame in learning. There is no shame in needing time. There is no shame in becoming. The only thing you must guard fiercely is the belief that your story is over while you are still breathing. As long as you are here, there is another decision available. There is another lesson, another attempt. Another morning, another opportunity to choose differently. So train your mind. Train it to pause before reacting. Train it to question destructive thoughts. Train it to tolerate discomfort. Train it to seek solutions. Train it to accept what cannot be changed and act on what can. Train it to remember the evidence of your own resilience. Train it to speak to you with honesty and compassion. Train it to return to the present. Train it to take the next step. And when life places something enormous in front of you, do not immediately ask, how will I survive all of this? Ask, what can I do today? Then do that. Tomorrow will have its own assignment. Meet it when it arrives. You do not need to carry tomorrow's weight today. Carry today and carry it with dignity. One day, you will look back at the person who was frightened, exhausted, uncertain, and still moving forward. And you will understand. That person was stronger than they knew. That person did not need a perfect life. That person needed a trained mind. A mind that could bend without breaking. A mind that could feel without drowning. A mind that could lose without disappearing. A mind that could fail without surrendering its identity. A mind that could stand in the ashes and say, something has ended, but I have not. And perhaps that is the sentence you need to carry with you. Something may end, but I am not ended. A door may close, but I am not closed. A dream may change, but I am not finished dreaming. Someone may leave, but I am not abandoned by myself. I may fall, but I am not forbidden from rising. I may be afraid, but fear does not get to decide my future. I may not know what comes next, but I can take the next step, and that is enough. You do not have to conquer your entire life today. You only have to refuse to surrender the next moment. Take the breath, make the choice. Do the work, learn the lesson, release what must be released, protect what must be protected, love what deserves love, walk away from what diminishes you, and keep moving, not because the road is guaranteed to be easy, because you are becoming capable of walking difficult roads, not because you will never break, because you are learning how to rebuild, not because you will never hurt, because you are learning how to heal. And not because you have finally become fearless, because you have finally understood that courage can exist alongside fear. So when life comes again with another challenge, another disappointment, another mountain standing between you and where you want to go, lift your head, look at it, take a breath, and remember everything you have already survived. Then tell yourself, I have work to do. I have a life to live. I have lessons to learn. I have strength to build, and I am not finished. Then take the next step, and another, until one day you realize that the mountain you were afraid of climbing became the ground beneath your feet. That is what happens when you train the mind. The obstacle may remain difficult, but you become different, and sometimes that is all the miracle you need.